Good evening, race fans, and welcome once again to Tinker, Tailor, Solder, Fry, the Let's Try program on the mighty Loading Ready Run Video Entertainment Network. My name's Ian Horner, and I'll be your navigator today through tonight's project, but we've also got Matt on camera, and of course, the talented Paul Saunders on the ones and twos.
Hello.
And today we're going back to the Thrustmaster. We've finished Le Mans, and if there's one thing that I've learned in my many years of tinkering, tailoring, soldering, and frying, it's that you never start a big project while you have a deadline staring you in the face. So fingers crossed the French decide not to hold another Le Mans in another 6 months again. But we're going to do some work on the Thrustmaster. This is not one of our oldest projects, but it's something we like to keep coming back to. And last time on the program, you may have recognized that we took the regular wheel off the Thrustmaster itself and replaced it with this beautiful, on-brand Loading Ready Run Blue model. The issue, though, is that when we removed the wheel, we also removed with it a number of key controls, buttons, D-pads, flappy paddle shifters. And we managed to replace some of those with some things in the meantime. We've got a gear shift here for the shifting of the gears necessary. And we've added a button box. But interesting thing you may remember from Le Mans is that we didn't end up using the button box. Now, why is that, you might ask? The reason being is that it's controlled by a little board from well, God knows, well, let's be honest, it's probably made in China. But we purchased this from the Washington Delivery Company, and it's a USB joystick, is what it says. X1. That's all the information you're going to get off of it. And unfortunately, it's very noisy in terms of the output it gives. It's supposed to be a board for, wiring together your own little arcade controller. So it's got your up, down, left, right, many buttons for, it reports to Windows as a HID-based joystick. You can also plug analog sticks into it. And that's where the problem is, because the analog circuits are, as I said, experiencing quite a bit of radio interference, which means they kind of just waggle their analog sticks all over the place. And that kind of interferes with what a lot of racing games expect.
It just has built-in Joy-Con drift.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a feature now.
So we could probably try to troubleshoot that, but rather than that, you may remember that when we took the wheel off our joystick, we left a little pigtail coming out of the back. And this was the wire that went up through the steering column of the joystick and plugged into the wheel itself. And then used a serial interface to scan for what buttons were being pressed. Because, as you'll note, there's fewer wires on there than there are buttons that would normally be on a wheel. And what are we going to do to change that? Well, doing a little research online, and I was able to find a Arduino sketch that allows you to just wire up arbitrary buttons and pass those as the bytecode necessary to the Thrustmaster, emulating the original set of buttons. And I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. That removes one USB cable that I need to plug into the computer with this rig, taking it from 1, 2, 3, 4 down to 3, which is a good a good reduction. It doesn't require to be plugged into a computer at all. Once the Arduino is programmed, it just runs off of the 3.3 volts that come off the Thrustmaster itself. And Bob's your uncle. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to crack open this Thrustmaster, disassemble our button box, and merge the two together. So why don't we get started by unbuckling the bottom here. But before we do that, we should remind you, of course, as we do on all of our programs, that this program, like them all, is brought to you by patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Yes, you could go to patreon.com and just wander around aimlessly figuring out who to support, but we'd appreciate it if you would support us. So thank you very much to all of our generous patrons. And for those of you watching live on Twitch, we'll get to your generosity a little bit later. In the meantime, let's get underneath and crack this nut. There's a large nut that attaches the Thrustmaster to its cage. And I think...
Always be sure to keep your Thrustmaster safely caged when not in use.
They're wily beasts.
Who knows what mischief they could get up to.
All right, hopefully I'm getting the right thing out of there. That's a hefty nut. Is that just, oh, thank God. I thought this was gonna be a lot more difficult than it was. Good, so we've got that removed. Now we just need to deal with the cables. And then we can take that apart.
So the buttons in your little button box there are set up so they're sized appropriately so they could also fit into the
wheel surround. Yes, correct. And that was a happy little accident on my part. I thought the button box was going to be the way to go, but it turns out that it was, as I said, a little bit noisy. And also a little bit more difficult than I thought it would be to remember where the buttons are. If you're on the wheel, you just got to move your thumbs a bit in rather than over, down, and then into the button area.
And you can do it without looking and everything. So
that's exactly it.
Now, did you find that the larger, fancier wheel was a lot better during for actual driving?
That is entirely correct. Yes, I absolutely love the larger wheel for that.
So, despite the extra work in doing the, having to sort of re-add a bunch of the features that were on the previous wheel, it was a worthwhile upgrade.
Yeah. This the wheel makes it a lot easier to feel the road because the force feedback it's physics. When you have a larger diameter, a larger turning radius, that torque is going to work harder and go farther. So it really allows you to read the road a little bit better, as accurate as a simulator can be sometimes. And we're probably going to need to take off the shifter here too, I just realized. Which means got to get underneath and get the Allen keys. Is that the right one? Sure does feel right. Good. Okay. There we go.
Well-known 80s alternate electronic musician Alan Keyes.
That's where the real talent was in the family. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Hold on. There we go. It's always a question as to which way is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey when you're working from a different angle than your eyes are.
That happens a lot when we're when you do some stuff like putting various bits onto cameras or tripods or different things where it's like righty tighty lefty loosey, okay, but from which perspective?
Yes. I mean, even from top down, I still get that question. Which side am I turning right? Is it right from the bottom or right from the top?
Yeah. Stage right or
God.
Audience right?
Screwdriver right. That's clearly the one. I also want to make note of Anubis in the chat mentioning something about a new set of potentiometers that are immune from drift. When working on sensing a magnetic field, no touching parts. I believe those are called Hall effect controllers. And believe it or not, they are a technology that I considered for my Thrustmaster Hot S setup. But it's still sitting in my Tailor backlog, I guess you could say, as a potential project for the future.
I guess no drift except for magnetic drift.
Yeah, I guess that too.
I guess if you just have to make sure there's nothing magnetic near it.
Yeah, no big magnetic fields. Please do not put your credit card next to my joysticks. Or, do, but leave it there just long enough that I can get an accurate reading. Okay, so I'm not disconnecting things completely from the wheel here, and there's one small reason for that, and it's the the zip tie that I added to keeps the cables together at the bottom. I did a really good job cable managing that and not much else in my life. Well, let's just disconnect the USB connector from this board here, and then we can give you a better look at the board itself. So this is the button box and the board that it's got here. As you can see, there's not much in terms of
What?
information as to what this board actually is.
What? It's a USB joystick
Yeah.
board.
Gee,
Clearly.
I wonder what chip this runs. Oh yeah, no, it's the very common covered with epoxy processing unit. So,
Yeah, those chips are very popular these days.
like it's not a badly designed board. It's I do like the fact that it comes with all the wiring you need to wire up with spade connectors, a bunch of buttons, and all the connectors are actually handily connected with these little plastic things. But like I said, it's just not. We'll have to do some experiments with the device itself in future. So.
Now, this setup is a direct one-to-one. Click a button. It has and each button has wires attached to it.
Exactly.
In fact, each button has 2 wires.
Yeah, they're not even. It's not even one of those setups where you chain together the ground. It's each individual button has its own in and out.
But the setup that the Thrustmaster is expecting has a system of, like, I guess it's sort of cording. I don't know what you call it.
I believe it's a matrix. No, it wouldn't even be a button matrix because it's not even. It's sending logical signals. In fact, actually, we've got a graphic here. If we can throw that up fairly quickly. This is from the person who actually went through the effort of actually decoding the signals from the Thrustmaster wheels themselves and discovering what the bytecode is that gets scanned. And as we say, the Arduino then reads that singular analog button press, or digital, I guess in this case, and then turns that into the code that the Thrustmaster is going to be expecting.
Right. I remember learning about the device from Desert Bus because it emulates a Sega Genesis controller, which is the same. It doesn't. There aren't enough wires in the connector on a Sega Genesis controller to power everything. So you need to. It has to. It sends codes rather than actual just on-off switches.
Yeah, exactly. Most video game systems work that way too, and it's.
Otherwise, you end up with big ribbon cables or something, I guess.
And it's one of those things that once you do understand how it works, it makes sense. But if you want a really easy sort of plug-and-play situation, that's where these sorts of boards come in handy. So we'll take this one button, we'll use this as a test case, just to test fit it here on the wheel to make sure I'm not going down a wrong hole. And ooh, that is a satisfying, perfect fit right there. So that's good.
And are those buttons that you picked out?
Actually, the buttons I purchased because of the project of putting together this button box. It is a 3D printed box, but it's meant as well to mate with the Thrustmaster Theta shifter, which also uses a Hall effect sensor, by the way. Now that we're getting all of our discussions on the table, but it was printed for and designed specifically for this style of button. Again, easily purchasable from the Washington Delivery Company or any other source of online electronic parts. They're really, really cheap buttons, but they do the job. Okay, so we've got our button for later. We've got our thing removed. Let's crack open this joystick. I just remembered that I don't have the screwdrivers here on the table. Would someone be willing to grab them from the off equipment room? Just the whole setup, please. Smart me. Bring all the other tools, just not the ones that normal people use to get into these things. It's not a difficult job opening up these guys, but maybe let's try removing that wheel first, right? Can't do that either because we don't have the screwdriver. Ting. Now that's something that's also being brought up here is the question of latency that gets added when you add the Q thing. When you start adding these serial interfaces. Noob is pointing out that the Super Nintendo itself had something like a a 2 millisecond latency, or 23 millisecond. No, 2 millisecond. That was it. Yeah.
Because it was like the Super Nintendo was a big, like quite a wide, like there were quite a few wires going down. Like it was quite a large cable.
Yeah.
Or quite a large connector.
But you think about the connectors on it. You had like what was it, 5 in there? 5 plus maybe a surround ground, which I don't think is an actual term, but it is now, in my mind. But I know that at least the Thrustmaster, again because of the work put together by the person in that thread, runs at 1,000 hertz for its sampling rate. So there's going to be not as much, hopefully not as much.
I always hated the original Xbox, and I think maybe even the Xbox 360 controllers were USB controllers, but they just broke out the USB connector and changed the form factor of the plug on it.
Yep.
So you could actually like you could literally take a controller, cut the cable, rewire it to a USB controller, and it worked fine. Like it was literally a USB controller that they had just changed the connector on just to piss people off.
I'm not sure if we ever went through my original hacked Xbox on Tinker Tailor, but that was something I actually did when I was living in Japan. Was I had an original Xbox that I hacked to be a media center, and rather than keep all 4 of the front ports as regular ports, I went into the Xbox, pulled out the controller ports, and replaced 2 of them with standard USB ports.
Oh, so you could plug in like a keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, or external storage. Right, nobody saw that. Didn't happen.
All right.
Okay, good. We're making progress. I think now we need to get the plate off the front. So let's, I'm going to actually use, this time, a little trick that I just learned from Adam Savage, which is to, rather than trying to remember where your screws go, just partially reassemble the screws back into the place. Okay, now we've got a front plate that we're going to need. You know what? This is in the way. There we go. Gotta find all of them. There we go. Ah, that's the name it was. Shift register. Thank you, Dragonite Streams. That's what the Super Nintendo used for its controllers. I do wish that I hadn't as heavily modified the second Xbox I owned in Japan, because it was one of the crystal cased ones. And it was a young hothead who thought he was going to be all cool and make a slim Xbox by removing the DVD drive and cutting off some of the plastic and then just jamming it down harder. And what I ended up doing is ruining the case, but it did look kind of cool from profile.
Modding consoles to add new features and change them. You were so young and innocent back then.
Yeah. Ah!
You would never do something that silly now.
No. Not even once. But something did just pop back into my head, Paul. And we were talking before the show about the march of progress in terms of microcontrollers and small Internet of Things boards, and the new Raspberry Pi Internet of Things with wireless on it. And it just occurred to me that I remembered an article on Hackaday just earlier this week about console modding. Specifically, this one was about the GameCube. And it uses one of those, one of the previous generations of those Raspberry Pi modules without the Wi-Fi to load a new bootloader.
The Raspberry Pi Pico. That's what it's called. Yeah,
that's it. Good.
Yeah, but they're they're going to have the Pico W.
Mm-hmm. So being able to load custom firmwares wirelessly to your GameCube sounds like a real cool idea.
Spiffy diffy.
Yeah.
I mean, do you need to change firmwares that often?
Probably not, but I can imagine. I mean, if it's early days and you're updating your your firmware more than once a week or more than once a month, maybe that's something to consider. Okay, bunch of plastic screws, self-tapping. My least favorite screw.
Any screw is self-tapping if you screw it hard enough.
Oh, I wish that were the case. There have been times when, for want of a hole, the project was lost. But just every time I undo a self-tapped plastic screw, I feel like I'm using up one of the few magic times it has left.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a limited lifespan on these things. There we go. Almost all of them. And then I think what's going to happen once we're done with this is I'm going to realize why I put the pigtail on the back. Come on. There we go.
What happened to that fancy electric screwdriver you had?
I still have that, though I keep it on my desk these days.
Ah.
Yeah, it still gets regular use.
That was that was a neat style of screwdriver, sort of rather than like the heavy duty thing. It's like specifically for, I guess, this kind of stuff, like the sort of assembling and disassembling things, as opposed to like driving screws.
Yeah,
and
small
stuff.
electronics. I'd really like to see an updated version of one of those with torque control, so that you don't overuse it. It is not the WoW Stick Anubis. It was the I had the ES121, I think, from Miniware. Though the Xiaomi WoW Stick does seem like a cool piece of technology, and definitely interested in one of those for a pin vise to drill the tiny holes in the the miniatures. All right, we've got it cracked open, and let's just spend some time having a look inside these things to see how they work. This is actually the system that does all of the force feedback. You've got your motor here, which is attached to via a belt with two tensioners to a very large gear, and that large gear is attached to the steering column itself. But
Force feedback is such an interesting. Like usually, motors are not set up to have somebody actively fighting the motor. Mm-hmm. Like for the vast majority of things, of motors don't have to have that kind of strength to stop someone like holding it, trying to twist it
exactly
the wrong way.
And that's why if you have a look in here, go to camera 7, you can see a small fan sitting directly underneath the motor itself, because that boy gets hot. Probably also further evidenced by the absolutely gigantic resistors on the back of the motor here.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now, are those? Is there stuff in this motor that's like still going to be retaining? Like, are there big capacitors and stuff that are going to be retaining a charge still?
No,
Be careful
thankfully not on this case. It's all direct drive. But where was I going with that? There was one other thing about the motor. Yeah, there are hacks that you can do to affect how the force feedback feels, and that generally involves actually breaking these screws here, which are very well painted up with Loctite, and adjusting how much tension you get on the belts, and sometimes even removing or replacing the belts with different materials. But that's not what we're doing today.
I was wondering about that, whether that was some sort of tamper evident stuff or what.
Yeah, no, it's not tamper-based. It's more there to just make sure that things stay where they are, because, as you mentioned,
it's spinning So obviously unscrewing itself is a problem.
Yeah, and it's all tensioned to a very specific tension. You don't want to be moving these things around willy-nilly, or letting themselves move around willy-nilly. But in terms of construction, I really like how simple everything is. You've got, and how well Thrustmaster makes these things. You've got your main board here, and everything's connected via connectors. There's very little that's soldered directly to boards. Ooh, hey, that's where the power supply is. Cool. I hadn't made a note of that until just now. Right. So here's where we're going to start getting fun. This is the cable that connects itself. That's where all the information goes. And we could probably, if we wanted to, honestly, wire directly to that with our own connector, but I don't have any of these types of... I don't remember the name of the white connectors, but I don't have any of them, so... not much we can do about that, but what we can do...
It almost looks like a power supply, like a 4-pin or 5-pin like power cable for a computer.
Yeah, they're standard connectors. And in fact, this one right here is your power connector, and that's a standard mole-esque.
I like
connector.
that. I like that mole-esque.
Yeah, I have I've got a crimp kit for DuPont connectors, but not for this one. And like I said, the names I cannot remember. I think there's actually one on the graphic, the name, but it escapes me. So what we need to do is we need to get wires from here to the front of the Thrustmaster once again. Am I correct, or was that?
I mean, it just says it's a 5264 2.54 millimeter 6-pin female terminal. So it's not like a name that trips off the tongue.
Yeah, no, it certainly doesn't. Not very marketable. Dragonite says it could be some sort of JST, SM. It's hard to tell these days, as Dark Morford says, because there's a lot of different connectors now. Right, so we need to get, as I said...
Somebody should standardize these.
Yeah. I need to get things from here to here. Thankfully, Thrustmaster thought of that and put a big old hole right down the barrel. We could try to line things up so that you could see through, but I don't think we're actually going to get that today. But yeah, there's a straight shot right from there all the way through to the front.
It is weird. It is unusual to have like a piece of consumer electronics be so hackable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just such a good design in my mind. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to keep this end back inside, and we'll just shove this end back up through, and hopefully it won't get caught on anything inside too much. So let's try and thread that through. Oh yeah, and it's already getting hung up on something in there. Right, I remember needing to bend the connector so that it goes in a straight line down. Otherwise, it's definitely going to bind on something in there. Okay, and through, keep on feeding. Keep on feeding. Oh no.
We need to like fish it.
I think you're right. Oh. Aha! We've got it.
Haha!
And of course, again, really well put together. The coiled cord allows you to a little bit of flexibility, and certainly allows for flexibility in the twisty department. So that means it's not going to bind itself up on anything too much. So we're just going to find a place where it can live. Plug the wheel back into the back like that. These are keyed connectors, right? I'm not going to be able to push... Yes, they are keyed. So I can't force that in the wrong way. That's important. Okay, well, we're ready to begin putting firmware.
So the idea is that connector connects to the Arduino
Correct.
And then all the buttons also connect to the Arduino. And then
Correct. This is just going to sit in the middle of everything. And you know what? I've been wondering where I want to put it in terms of.
Do you need a special adapter thing to go from the Arduino to that connector?
So let me see if this pitch works with these. Oh, nope. No special connector needed.
Nice.
That just fits. Look at that. Oh, okay. That's how we gotta be today. That makes me extremely happy because that cuts the number of wires that I need to. Yeah, for the close-up. Yes, just in there, and then it just slides right in, like nobody's business.
Some designer is like, "Oh no, we should have changed those by 1 millimeter for no reason."
Oh yeah, you run into that a lot. But now I'm wondering, if I do that, do I have space to fit it down the hole? And I think the answer is maybe.
What?
Oh, that's illegal. That is absolutely going to fit, and that makes me very happy. Great.
So fancy.
Now, how do we do this in a way that we're going to be able to get wires out of there too? I may just need to put up a small jumper section with some silicone wires and then break out from there, and I think that might be the smartest thing to do. So, let's start by finding out which wires we actually need to solder. So I'm going to bring up that graphic on my end, and hopefully y'all have it memorized on yours. Come on, give me access. Hello, Windows. All right, so D76543210, 9 and 8 are buttons. You gotta make sure to...
So it's multiplexing everything over just 2 wires, eh?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wires it looks like. Because you've got, you've got ground. You've got your meso port, which is I think where you get the soup, SS, SC, and voltage.
Sorry, you have your soup?
The D12 MISO. I know that has a different meaning in electronics, but I have not internalized it. So I guess I'm just going to call it the meso soup port for now. Multi and single out, maybe? But yeah, you only see the two green wires connected because I think the assumption is you can piece that together in your own mind. You just need to know which the ports are on the board, and thankfully, they are all helpfully numbered. So the ones we need to worry about first are going to be our ones that get us to this boy here. So we can't just stick this right on the board is what's unfortunate, because it needs a... Oh, I need to open up a higher... Oh, no, wait. There we go. So 5 volts, we need D13, D10, and D12.
Ian, is there a link to this image somewhere that people could access?
In fact, if you bring up the image again...
Oh, is it actually on?
It's right there. You can go to rr-m.org/blog in the bottom right-hand corner of the image. I like these people who do this sort of thing. And that way people can follow along at home without having to have it on screen. Right, so these wires are all over the place. So we'll need to put together our own little jumper, and that's just fine. Let's get out the wires. And we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is handily the number that I have here. Do we want to try wiring directly to the Arduino? Do we want to use a connector? Let's see what we've got connector-wise. Might be useful. So we have we can put together a 5-pin stack. But that's going to be pretty big. Unless we use some right angle connectors. Now, will those fit in there? No, right angle connectors will not fit in alongside the wires. He thinks to himself, well, in that case, how about we do it this way? Let's do pins on the board and pins on the other side. Oh, and yeah, female to female is what we'll use, or receptacle to receptacle, I guess is the proper nomenclature. Okay. We don't need much in the way of wire for this either, which is good. Do I have 5 wires already? I have 6 wires on this, so that'll be enough. Let's give ourselves that much, give ourselves that much to work with. Let's be good to ourselves today. Where are my nippers? Right here. All right, let's cut some wire. Boop. 1 bit down. Let's strip some wire. Hopefully I won't need to strip each piece individually. I mean, who am I kidding? We're absolutely going to have to strip each wire individually. Give it maybe another fraction of a millimeter. We're stripping. Still gummed up with a bunch of silicone cord. Oh, look at that. Good and clean, one time. Let's do it the other side too. Feed it. Strip it. Beautiful. Beautiful clean cuts today. Alrighty, and we were going to give that a 5 wide. This is 7, 5. Except we need 6. How did I almost bust that up? Oh, because 2, 3, 4, 5. Because 1 is not used, so we only need the 5. Great. Great. Okay, we need to then get some receptacles off the DuPont crimp line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. Clip. And we'll just bend those off. Then here comes the fun. Fun not guaranteed. At least this time I'm working with wires intended to be crimped in the DuPont style, so this will hopefully go a little bit better. Okay, so I definitely cut these wires way too long, so let's trim those down just a titch. And by just a titch, I mean by about half. Because otherwise, those are just going to be way too long. All right, and well, you know what? We can get rid of the green wire because the green is the one that is not used in this film. It'll be useful for some other project, some other time. Ooh. You know, I thought to myself this morning, today's a good day to clip my nails. I'm not going to need any fine control on that level. And yet here we are. Ow. Do I have a tool for this? The answer is no. All right, well, we just got to power through, I guess. Maybe if I clip just at the edge? Sure, let's pretend that's going to work. Okay, sometimes plain pretend does work. Okay. There we go. Black, white, gray, purple, blue. Well, you know, that's almost as good as what we want. Almost matches. We'll just have to, I guess, make purple into red or something. Oh, come on. Why you gotta be so tight like that? I mean, I know why. It's so that you can withstand the rigors of home electronics. All right, now we should be able to crimp these friends up with a little problem. Where's my friend? The friend is named Crimping Press. Is there anything funny about this? Oh yes, the Neki Goo DuPont crimping tool set. I like it when tools have fun names. And Neki Goo is about as fun as they get. All right, I learned a bit of a trick recently about this. I have had troubles in the past, and the trick is to very lightly grip the thing you're about to crimp before you add the wires in. And that helps it stay in place while you actually get the job done. But aligning it is always a struggle. Yep, I've already got it off. See, I've got it off center there. We want the wings going down. Goodbye. So let's slide it in there just a bit more. Come on. Doing it for an audience is always harder than just doing it too. But there we go. We've got it in position. Now we need to shove our wire in.
Crimping cables. It's going to be a exhibition sport in the new Olympic Games.
I mean, we could absolutely make a Maker's Olympics. So the wire crimping.
I feel like that's something maybe they did or they should have done on like Mythbusters at some point.
A Maker's Olympics?
Yeah. Some sort of like Maker's competition.
Because I think the crimping, the miniature soldering would absolutely be a great event as well. All right, did I do that correctly, or did I just jam it up? And I think, let me make sure that it's still... Yep. Let's get the actual adapter on there. goes in. Actually, which one do I want? Blue is ground, and ground is 2. So let's put ground in there. Ooh, yeah, no, I think I hecked that one up. Ugh. Almost got it right. I pushed it a little bit too far down the wire. Can I just pull it off, do you think? Or is that completely crimped?
I saw a neat video the other day of somebody doing, I don't know what the technical term for it is, but it's almost like sculptural electronics.
Yes.
Where basically like they're using sort of heavier gauge wire than you would normally use, such that the wire could actually support itself, and they make these, quite beautiful little like miniature work of art, or a little statue, or thing that actually is, instead of just being like loops of wire or whatever, the components are actually all wired together and soldered, and it's like a little sound synthesizer, some sort of little electronic component. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, I believe it's called Dead Bug circuit design, and it's actually something I've got sitting in the Tinker Tailor project ideas folder as well, to put together a amplifier in that style. So perhaps one day we'll see that as a project here. Okay, that one felt better.
Teeny weeny.
That one felt better. But okay, let's make sure it's straight and stick it in pin number 2. Okay, that felt like that went in better. Okay, it's locked in there. That's the important. No, that's one of the important things. It accept.
This is sort of the little teeny weeny wire equivalent of like the barrettes or whatever that you use to connect wires together.
Yeah. Generally, it goes a little bit better than this, but this one just seems to be kicking my butt. Oh, wait, there we go. Well, let's see if the rest of them work out, and then we'll go from there. Am I using the wrong hole? I don't think I am. Anyway, let's release that from its prison. Using a little pin here. Just gotta lift the flap up. Just gotta lift the flap up. Just gotta lift the flap up. There we go. Yeah, I feel like I've got them too tight for some reason. Or maybe the children are wrong. By which I mean the receptacles. It's hard to tell. But I feel like I got it in there right. So we'll see. We'll see once we get some of these others hooked up. I mean, we got lots of wire, we've got lots of connectors. Let's not worry too much about that. I'm going to try this in a different method this time. See, is that the wrong direction? That was the wrong direction. So that one just got ruined.
Yeah.
That's great.
These little things are very finicky, eh?
Oh, extremely.
I guess people in chat were saying that they're actually really for machine assembly. most of the time.
Yeah, yeah. These are they definitely keep the look of your project nice and clean, but maybe I was using the wrong one there. Well, let's try putting number 2 in. So that, yeah, absolutely was not the right choice. It's absolutely the smallest hole. And it is absolutely upside down. It's amazing that you've got to relearn how to use these things every time. Now, hold on 1 second here. What if there we go. I think that's part of the problem too, is that I'm pushing them too far down or too far close to the edge of the crimper. So the crimper seems to be crushing the actual connection part. That's how you want it done. Okay. Not sure if we are on screen here or not, but hopefully you can see the difference between those two crimps.
So I guess maybe your crimpers are slightly wide for this particular.
Yeah, well, or I'm just using them incorrectly. Let's make doubly sure of that. Yeah, that looks like that's a little bit better. Well, maybe not. Maybe I've just done something to these crimpers that they're just not going to be workable for me anymore. Let's try putting this one back in the... oh, that's the blue. Well, that's why. The blue one was the problem. The purple one goes on. There we go. That's what it's supposed to look like. Just goes in nice and clean and pulls out just as cleanly, but still has some retaining force in it. And this one's just been crushed to death. I could probably open it up if I force a pin in there, but that's... well, I mean, let's try one of these side pins here. It's right angles. I can't push that out. Urgh. Yeah, no, that's just bending the connector itself. Urgh. Okay, you know what? Let's just start over one last time, but I feel like we're on the right track. Third time is the charm, right?
Oh, the problem is that if one messes up, you can't keep the other ones because then the length is all wrong, right?
Yeah. I mean, technically I probably could, but what I really don't want to do is have to, no, separate wires again. Whew, okay, we kept the cuts right. Okay, let's get rid of these into the garbage. Let's move the screws out of the garbage area so that we don't think that they're garbage. And let's grab 5 more of these. Clip. And back and forth. All right. It's a better option for this use case other than these connectors. Buy pre-connected wires is an option. Or soldering directly to the board is generally the other one. What this does is it allows us to have the correct length that we want for our wires rather than relying on the tyranny of wire makers.
It gives you the ability to unplug and plug in the contacts too, instead of
Yes.
like instead of it being soldered on.
And you can unsolder things, but it's messy and difficult. Whereas a properly crimped wiring system, that's just good. Everyone loves that. What I should do is put a label on this thing with a label maker. It says pull connector halfway out. So that's what I was doing was I was getting right up to the edge here. And that's a big no-no. It needs to be about here for it to be correctly crimping the wires. Okay, let's get another one on DJ Khaled. Good, that's tuned in. Number 3 in position. Push it in. Ooh, straighten the wires a bit. And pushed in. You want the back end to just be grabbing insulated wire and the second connector to be grabbing the wiry portion of the wire, and everything's going so well now. Okay, 2 more to go on this side. Oh, come on, you can, no. You can do it, but let's try, well, not try. Let's get ready twice, crimp once. Because you can only crimp once.
That was a disappointing James Bond movie.
You can only crimp once. This is JAMA standard 4.220. You can't not crimp. Very excited. Hope, at least in America, you folks down south of the border will apparently be getting Evangelion 3.0 plus 1 in your theaters sometime this summer. So.
I'm assuming that 3.0 plus 1 is not, in fact, 4.0.
It is the final movie. It does come after 3.1. But technically not 4. I'm just disappointed they didn't have the courage to use the Japanese tagline here in North America, which was "Goodbye to all Evangelion." And we all know there's going to be more merchandise. You can't say goodbye to all the Evangelion like that. Think of the shareholders.
Say goodbye to all Evangelion, and then say hello to Evangelion 2.0 or whatever.
Oh no!
Evangelion babies.
I would watch that. And that brings to mind, now that I'm thinking about all the other usual North American type spin-offs in that way. And quite frankly, only Patlabor had the courage to do a all puppet-based spin-off series, which is kind of strange for a mecha show, but hey, they did it.
I am imagining like a reboot thing that's like all done in like, you know, sort of CalArts, like Steven Universe style, like noodle arms and except it's Evangelion.
Evangelion America. All right, well, this is probably a good time because it's the top of the hour for us to take one of our contractually obligated breaks. What's going to happen is we're going to play some ads. You're going to get up, stretch your legs, swap your fluids. We're going to do the same on our end, and we'll be back with more crimping action. Thrilling here on Tinker Tailor Solder Fry. Please don't go all the way away. Welcome back to Tinker Tailor Solder Fry. Let's try the program here.
Your mic is turned off.
Wow, yep, sure is. Welcome back to Tinker Tailor Solder Fry here on the mighty Loading Ready Run Video Entertainment Network. We're crimping wires because we are connecting this husk of a Thrustmaster TMX 4-speedback wheel system. We want our button control back in the logic of this guy here, rather than in the hands of this noisy little random AliExpress special.
I mean, it seems like if you were actually using that for the analog sticks, it would really suck.
Oh yeah.
Like, you'd have to have huge dead zones in the middle in order to make it not just send you all over the place.
It would probably be terrible. Let me tell you, when I was setting things up for the Le Mans this year, and because I don't race here because I have to take these, I had to rent a car to move this thing from my home to the office here because it won't fit in my Mini. Thankfully, we live in BC where there's a car share available. The whole thing cost me less than $5, but it's the principle of it. But it means I had to set up the commands for keys and bindings and whatnot. And every time you'd start, you'd get, okay, this button, single button, easy. Single button, easy. Now it comes to either turning the wheel or any sort of an analog press, and it would instantly be overridden by something from this. Like, no, I don't want joystick 2, I want Thrustmaster pedals. Oh, you meant this one that's constantly making noise. Like, you could pull it up in the Windows calibration system and watch the stick section just go all over the place. So,
I guess the wheel and the pedals and everything that this system represents is larger than the actual wheel and pedals in your real car.
Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, yeah, it actually is. But weirdly, in addition to being larger, it's also straighter. Because, fun fact about Minis, your pedals are offset from where they are in a normal car because, again, it's too small. So ergonomics were not Iglesias's concern, I'm guessing. Sorry, we just need to get 5 more pins on here, and then we can actually connect this Arduino up to our friend here. So let's keep doing that, I guess. Here's something before I goozle myself. Remember I said I needed a 5-pin connector? Because we got 5 wires? This is partially correct. We're going to need a 5-pin socket on one side because that's going to connect to the wheel itself. On the other side, we can't do that because the pins we are going to connect to on the Arduino are not 5 pins in a row. They're all over the place. So what we'll do is we'll solder in the header pins, and then we'll just connect the various wires to where they need to be connected around there. While I was searching on Thingiverse earlier today in preparation for this episode, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I came across someone who had put together a spacer. So in order to connect a standard wheel to the Thrustmaster, you need an adapter because this is not a standard steering wheel connection point. These bolts, that's your standard. I think this is Nardi, or is this the other one? There are 2 separate standards for the star pattern of bolts on steering wheels. And you can get quick disconnects, but I just put together a single one because I'm not changing wheels all that often. Point is, though, the fine folks over at Thingiverse have also come up with a extender, which you'll put between here and the button plate and the wheel, which is just big enough to house an Arduino with with wiring and pins. So,
ooh. So because that white bit is a 3D printed adapter.
Yes, right? That's probably one of the longer prints I've done because that is no infill on that. That is solid plastic.
You got to make sure it's really tough.
Yeah, because it's got to be solid. So back to the tiny work here for a second. Mythical Lure Garage TTSF idea, take another Mini, turn it into a dinky little pickup truck? No! That's a terrible thing to do with a Mini.
Isn't that just like a ute or something?
Yeah. If I wanted to do that, what I'd do is I would buy one of the Japanese micro trucks, and then strip it down for parts, and then maybe try to adapt a Mini shell on top of it. But the Mini was a perfect little car all on its own.
We need to train like mice how to crimp cables. To crimp little teeny weeny cables.
And I guess you could say this is one of those areas where I often say that maybe if you have them, a good place to employ the benefits of the labor of children. Last time I suggested that was on the udon special. When if you're going to stomp on bags full of dough, that's something kids can get behind.
Raccoons, yeah, they've got very sensitive
There
fingers.
we go.
Yeah,
yes. And importantly, if they're going to be working with electronics, you want to make sure that you wash your hands before eating anything, to avoid any sort of lead poisoning. And the raccoons are already all right behind that habit, so less chances of health and safety issues when working with raccoons. That doesn't sound right.
Health and safety issues for the raccoons, I guess.
Oh, you know what?
There's like little teeny weeny monkeys. Maybe you could get just like a little monkey to do it.
Now I just want to live in the world where we had a series of advertisements by the Canadian Workplace Health and Safety Corporation featuring the animated raccoons. No, Bert, you can't do that. You got to pour wait a minute. Into water. Yes, you've got to pour acid into water. Right. Not water into acid. But how else will we melt Cyril Sneer's money bin?
Also makes Donatello doing this with 2 fingers and a thumb on each hand even more impressive.
Yeah, let me tell you that ninjutsu ain't nothing compared to that. How does he type? God, does he have to get one of those big Fisher-Price keyboards with the keys that are that big? Poor Donatello. Okay, this is going much quicker. So I think the key here is, until I remember to put a label on this thing, chat, make sure to remind me next time I'm crimping something to absolutely pull the bit to be crimped halfway out.
Now, is that just a general rule of thumb, or is that just for this one kind of connector?
Well, thankfully this is the only type of connector I crimp on a regular basis, so it might just be this particular tool, to be honest. I have never successfully crimped with something that wasn't the Neki Goo. Okay, now we need to make sure that we're getting our cables in the right order. So we're going to have to make some decisions here. Blue is apparently ground, so let's keep that as ground. And let's match blue to blue. Let's match as many colors as we can. So blue goes to blue. Flip that over.
Right, I guess you don't necessarily have to do them in the exact order that they are on the ribbon.
Yeah. I'm in control of my own destiny. Why do these cables never want to go into the holder correctly or easily? Do I have anything? Oh yeah, I can use the pins to push it in. That will do. Okay, bottom pin, or second to bottom pin. Don't bust that up that early on. Now, why do you not want to go in there?
Is there like a? Do you have to like open it to lock it in?
Well, it does go underneath these little plastic fingers. That does lock it in, but I think it might just be that it's a bit too wide for the hole at the moment, which is usually fine. Actually, I think we got a tool for this. Yes, we do. Nope, that's not it. Oh, perfect. We'll just use this awl. Just a little point that we can use to gently nudge it into position. Gently-ish. Okay. That feels like it's mostly in there. Not quite. You can see it's still proud of the section. Well, is it going to receive a pin or not? Okay, it's in there enough that it will receive pins. That's what matters. Let's test it. You know what? Just because I am smarter than I was in the past, let's use our handy-dandy voltage meter to do some continuity testing.
Arclight Dynamo in the chat recalls you having this similar issue on a previous thing using these.
Yeah, that's correct.
Could it be that somehow you've ended up with like connectors that are slightly the wrong size for the things, and you keep using the same?
That, you know what, that's possible, because they did come in a kit together, and I kind of did trust them for no good reason other than the man at the store told me that this is the one I ordered. But let's get the blue pin. Okay, yeah, that's a fine connection there.
Like, it would be just like these things to have two different standards that are like half a millimeter off from each other or something ridiculous.
Absolutely, wouldn't they? I think what it is actually is, yep, here it is that I have, unfortunately, bent them a bit much on one axis. And,
so they sort of flatten out and expand.
Yeah.
Man.
Thing, could you give me a small set of pliers? Yeah, those will do. Those are perfect.
Those little needle nose ones.
Thank you.
And that crimper is very finicky.
Well, it's not one of the good ones, shall we say?
I guess you really want like a if that's the only thing you use it for, maybe you need to get like a dedicated, crimper for just this thing. That's exactly the right, instead of trying to do a ton of different something that can do so many different crimpings.
Well, it's really it's the precision on them. That's the problem. Like this is a very cheap crimper, and so the precision is not great, and so you can end up crimping farther than what you need to. But this is a case of it doing that and pushing these back pieces out wider than they need to be. If it was more precise with how far I could push into it, would be,
right.
You wouldn't have that possible problem. Just want to make sure I'm using pliers and not wire cutters, because that'll ruin the wire cutters if I'm trying to ply with them.
Metric connectors versus imperial holes.
God. Story of my life. Okay. Blue and then white. Let's go white next up, because we can match things up as much as possible. Make sure not to get gray confused with white, because it's a very light gray. Okay, and let's hope that goes in. Oh yeah, nice and easy. There we go.
So just by rounding it off a little bit. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and that's in there good and tight. That was white. Next up on the list is orange. Orange is the SS one, and for orange we're going to use purple, I guess. Yeah.
Chromatically, purple is like the opposite of orange. So, I don't know. Good way to remember it.
Yeah, we got two more colored ones, orange and red on the original there, so should be fine. Orange. And green is not used. That's why I keep forgetting. I don't need to connect green. Okay, orange goes right in, no problems there. Oh, that's been the smoothest one so far. And then red, I guess, we'll make as black. Wait a minute.
Draconite Streams in the chat says that's actually correct. The standards for DuPont connectors versus Molex are one is an imperial standard and the other is a metric standard.
No!
So they work together, but they're off by like some, single digit percent.
Infuriating. You know what else is infuriating? Is I hecked this up. And hopefully I can get that out of there. Oh, yep, good, no problem. Just everything needed to be moved down one more port on this connector.
Oh, because the idea is you have to skip one port?
Yep, it's a 6-pin on this side, only 5 here, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just use the 5, and then forgot to put the blue on the bottom hole because we're skipping one. Thankfully, we've got all the tools and everything is breezy there. Ooh, this will give me a chance to actually re-bend the blue pin. Hopefully give that a bit of a rounding. Okay, and we'll do the same with the white, just to make it a little bit easier on ourselves. How does the other side look? This one's a bit flat. Let's fix that.
What's interesting about this, like doing this, as a live stream, I think it gives a nice, a good, a real look at this kind of work, like if this was being done as like, here's how to, as like a DIY, how to do this to your Thrustmaster thing, it would be like, add these connectors, cut to connectors being plugged in.
Yeah, and you wouldn't even see this part. It would just be like, you need to connect this part to this part. Make sure to keep your wires right.
Yeah. But, but then when you're doing it yourself at home, you're like, oh man, I took, this whole part is like, way longer than I thought it was. This person lied to me.
Oh, see, look at this. Things are just going right in now. Click, click, click. Everything's in place. Bob's your uncle.
Alrighty.
No problem.
So do you want to make a note somewhere of what colors on your thing or correspond to the colors on the...
My hope is that I can do that by just... Where's my jumpers here? Connecting these two things up, and I will be able to see directly that that's the case. But will that be enough? Probably. I'll keep referring back to it. 2, 3, 4, 5. Great. Phew. Usually I don't get a good snap like that on these. Then we're just going to push that down about halfway with a tool for that. That will be... actually, you know what? We can probably... Yes, if we do it on this side. There we go. That connects in nicely like that. And then this connects, blue to blue. There we go. Golden. Let's do some continuity testing. All right. Blue. To blue. Hey, good. Okay, that's purple to white. Or no, white next. That's white to white. Wait, that's because that's gray. Right. White to white. Perfect. No bridging. Orange.
Wow, that white and gray is very. That is.
Yeah.
I would call that irresponsibly close.
Yeah, especially when you don't want to get your voltages and your data lines mixed up. Okay, now we're going to gray. Yes. Okay, good. And then finally black to red. Perfect. Okay, now we control the horizontal and the vertical, etc., etc. We can easily do either of those pins. Are they next to each other anywhere? None of these pins are next to each other, so we need to use more of the individual pins for the sheathing. Thankfully, this part will be relatively, well, the easy part will come in a second. The difficult part right now is getting these out of the box. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There we go. Toss that back in.
So this is rather than mounting that full like comb thing on the
Arduino.
or just, yeah, well, are you gonna actually like put the pins into all the holes in the Arduino, or just the ones that you need?
That, you know what? I think I'll probably end up putting the pins into everything, just because that's it's easier than trying to do individual pins. But I won't need to connect everything, thankfully. Because I think we're going to be ending up using the majority of them anyway. Just looking at the number of buttons and whatnot we've got available. Purple. Please go on responsibly.
Right, of course. The diagram that we've been looking at is how the Arduino gets wired to the Thrustmaster. You also have to actually attach all the buttons to the Arduino.
Yep.
That's the whole point of the operation.
There's a column there of, if for those of you looking at it, that gives you the pin number, and starting with the menu on D7, and then button 12 being D6, up being D5, B, D4, and then down the chain.
So then there's some code on the Arduino that says like when that you can lock in to be like when this button is hit, do D7 or whatever.
Exactly. Send the when D7 is high, send bytecode for menu button. And keep sending until it's released. Right. This is also one of those ways. This is also how you get around things like number of key rollover issues, is by using these sorts of bytecode control systems. Because that's what can happen when you're dealing with just a matrix of switches. You end up getting yourselves into lock situations where putting down too many keys or too many keys on a certain row or column, and you're going to end up running out of inputs, basically.
That's the like N key rollover stuff for keyboards.
Exactly, and that's why it was something I had to really keep in mind when I was doing the initial Thrustmaster build. Is this the right one? Did I grab? Yes, I did. Ah, good. That's why. It's like, there's too many holes on here, and then there's not enough holes for the number of pins. And that's because the holes on the very ends are not connected holes. They're just holes in the the board.
Those are just for mounting.
Okay, you know what we've got to do now is we got to solder in some pins. So let's turn on the soldering iron and get that heating up.
I believe you can get these little Arduino boards pre-pinned as well, right? That's a pretty common thing.
I think so, yeah. I've never done it myself, but it might save a little bit of time. But it probably costs in terms of shipping. So this came in it's just a standard postcard envelope.
Right, yeah, it becomes a lot more pokey.
Let me tell you, your various postal systems don't like to mail things that aren't mail but do look like mail. Where is my flux? There you are.
I remember back in the day, you know, when we had to like we were mailing out a ton of those magnet sheets that we sent out to all our
oh yeah, the poetry
all our Patreon people many years ago, which we specifically got them to be light enough and small enough so that we could put them in letter mail, which was fine, and we never had any problems with it until we took one to the post office. Like we were just, because we were picking up a bunch of packages, and we're like, oh hey, we'll send these as well. And she put it on the scale.
Oh
and
no!
It stuck to the scale. And she was like, hey, wait a minute.
Are you sure this is what you say it is? So I'm thinking about using these right angle pins because if I set them up in such a way that they're kind of going in a direction like this, I'm wondering if I could fit them into the Thrustmaster hole. And the cool thing is because, so you know what, I don't think so, because we've got a lot of stuff popping out here already. So I think we might just have to live our life.
Because those little black connector thingies are quite long.
Yeah, I think they're already going to be long enough that they're not going to fit in the hole. We're going to have to deal with some cable management behind the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, again, I guess if it was really important, you could have not done the connector. You know, really, you would have to have soldered it directly to the stuff, and it could be done in a more compact package, but it would be a pain in the butt.
I'd rather do it in a way that's going to be more accessible for me to work on in the future. If I ever want to, undo something or put it back the way it was. Okay, that should be enough. Let's paint on some flux.
TTSF where he fixes someone's car or motorcycle. I mean, Ian did a lot of work on his car and motorcycle. Unfortunately, it's not really easily streamable.
That's really the only reason we haven't done it, is it's A, I don't have a place to work on these things myself right now as it is, and B, getting cameras and streaming equipment and frankly internet to those areas.
Yeah, I was going to say garages are not known for their good Wi-Fi connections.
Not exactly, no. Okay, you know what? I turned down my soldering iron from 600 because I thought it was too much. Nope, 600 is where we want to be. Please increase your temperature. Thank you for increasing your temperature. Yeah, it turns out when you use a real soldering iron as opposed to one of those USB powered ones, they can heat up real quick.
Mm.
I ended up leaving my magnifying glasses back at home as well, because I wasn't sure if Corey was going to be doing any detail work on her Warhams.
So, right, of course.
Soldering without without good vision right now.
Which, by the way, if you didn't get a chance to watch our AFK Warhammer stream last night, it was super fun.
It was indeed.
Ben and Ian and Corey and Jacob fighting the Warhammer kill team.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out really well, and all the miniatures are super sweet looking.
Everybody's so talented. I think
it is available obviously right now here on in the Twitch VODs, and it will be uploaded to the YouTubes presently, I'm sure, in the next little while.
That said, if you'd like to catch it live, we'll be doing it again next Wednesday and every Wednesday during the month of July.
Yep.
So check it out.
It's not the same on the Princess Intel says it's not the same on. I know it's not quite the same when you can't yell at us for getting rules wrong and so forth. But if it makes you feel any better, we were mostly ignoring people anyway.
Yep. Not purposefully. Just we were having a good time. That was a stream that went by a lot quicker in the head, I think, than it did on the clock.
Mm.
Speaking of going by quicker, we're making good time on this pin soldering here. Just a few more left.
It's nice when it's stable enough that it can just stand on its own. Makes things a lot. You don't have to do the third hand thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or solder in the mouth thing.
Yep. Always happy when we can avoid that. So, can I just hold on that shot there? Can you zoom in a bit more, please? This is just self-indulgence for me. Well, not self-indulgence. This is actually me checking my work. It's like having a microscope.
Yeah, it's like the world's most inconvenient microscope that requires thousands of dollars worth of equipment and 2 other people to operate.
So one of the things I'm excited about this project for is this is my first time using a microcontroller not connected to USB most of the time. Because
so the idea is once you sort of lock this in, then it just kind of sits there quietly.
Exactly. We'll never need to put anything into this USB port again once it's loaded up with software, ideally. Okay, so these are going to go in. Now I need to remember which cable goes where. So blue is ground, and that goes into the non-USB side ground. Thankfully, there are 2 ground ports. We'll use all of them. Oh boy. Love loose pins. Why are you so loose? Did I do something to you that was incorrect? Do I need to I'm not going to re-crimp, that's for sure. But maybe just squeeze up that box a bit. Oh, there it is. The little tongue that goes down to touch the wire is not bent correctly. There we go. A little tight, but we don't want these to come out, so. There we go. In place and connect to second pin over ground. What is going on? Oh, is it just not? Yeah, this one's still not going deep enough, so I need to give it a bit more of a diet. Actually, I can just disconnect that from there now. I don't need to lean so far forward. Okay, let's grab another pin just to make sure. No, that's right, that's not the problem. The problem is it's not going deep enough into the plastic housing. Now it is. Great. Will you connect to ground now in a way that's going to make me happy? There we go. That's solid connection. Next up is going to be the white. Which now that's why we did this. Okay, and white is in our system. Three is white? Yes, white is, and there you're calling it gray. Wait. Do I have different colors? Ah, yes. So white, they're just choosing to represent white as gray on that end. Okay. So pin 2 ground, pin 3 is white. White is white in our situation, and white goes to pin
White.
B12.
It's white, which is represented by gray. So you plug in the white cable, not the gray cable, which also looks white. It's important that you use the white cable for the thing on the screen that says gray, because if you remember, the gray is actually white.
Right.
Otherwise, things will get confusing.
Yeah. Otherwise. All right. Pin 4 is orange in their case. That's the next one up from white, and in our case, orange is played by purple. That goes to D10.
Oh, I can actually see the difference between the white and the gray final. Now, it's like if the light catches it just right, you can see the difference between the colors. Otherwise,
it's almost like it's a coating rather than a coloring. I mean, that's kind of what wires are, isn't it? They're just coated in insulation.
It's like, dudes, if you run out of colors, you do the stripies. Like that, there's an established system for this.
Just make sure that your gray is actually gray, though, dudes. Okay, the last one is red, which is going into D13. Red is played by black.
It's like I remember putting together a piece of furniture that wasn't IKEA furniture, but and it came with screws that were there were screws that were like metal colored, like just regular galvanized or silver screws, and there were screws that were painted green. And in the manual, which was black and white, so some screws were white and some were black. And so I was like, okay, so are the green ones the black ones or are the green ones the white ones?
Wow.
It was like, this could have been fixed.
Difficult, yeah. All right. I think it's now time for us to flash this Arduino. So let's make sure I remember how to do that properly. First, let's disconnect it from the anything else which might cause any sort of a problem. And let's launch our Arduino.
I appreciate that even though it's a bare bones board, it actually does have the USB header on it. You don't have to do some sort of wired up thing to flash it.
I don't know. One day I would like to be as cool as I could be and wire a raw Arduino into something. But that is not today.
It also, so does it get? It doesn't get even get powered off the USB. Like it's getting power from somewhere else.
Yep, it's getting powered from the gray wire here, which is represented in the image as a black wire, and on our board is the off-white color. That's your 5.5 volt.
Right, right. So yeah, you really want to make sure you don't put that in the wrong.
Yes. Oh, Java, I guess I do have to allow you access to my network.
If you must.
Okay, board is not an Arduino Uno, it is a Arduino Nano. And let's load up the sketch. Ba-doop. TMX emulation.
I like that Arduino programs are called sketches.
Yeah.
It implies a certain level of like work in progress.
Yeah. No, this is just a sketch. Don't worry, don't worry. I bet you're on COM 3. All right, let me plug it in, I guess. And it does the thing.
Ooh. Does it have lights that blink?
Yes, it does. I mean, you gotta have blinking lights, right? And we just push the button to verify. Compiles the sketch. And then we upload.
So you don't have to do any actual customizing of this before you upload it. Eh?
Thankfully, not on this one.
It's just a total turnkey thing. Well, not turnkey, but the sketch anyway is.
I did get the right Arduino, didn't I? Still uploading, it says. I need to push the reset.
In the picture on the website, it says Arduino Nano 3.1.
Yeah, which is what I have.
Gravitech.us. I assume that's just the people who sold that particular Arduino.
That's the hope. I still tend to, not an endorsement, but they've done me good so far. I still go through Universal Solder here in Canada.
That's an amazing name.
It really is, isn't it? Wow. I'm really impressed. The person who put together this sketch has fantastic commenting in their code. Basically, the entire README is in here, telling you which pin to connect to, etc., etc. Problem uploading to the board. Okay. Let's try.
Have you actually done anything with this board yet, or is this
Not yet.
is just a straight out of the package?
Yep, straight out the package. Ah, that said, I don't.
Do you have to do something on the board, like set a pin high or something on the board in order to put it into writing mode or something weird like that?
That's what I'm worried about now, actually. Because I don't flash Arduinos all that often. Firefox, double check.
It's good. You shouldn't make a habit out of it.
People ask, how do I flash my art? Oh, hell no. Do not send me to a...
Captain Asparagus says, I just did this on my Nano for a different project, and I had to set it to the wrong board to get it to load my program. That's a little unintuitive.
That's always fun. Captain Asparagus, do you happen to remember what your board was? board du Milanov. Okay, maybe we need to load up some boards in our board manager here. I remember that being a sort of thing. Nano. Built-in Arduino 1.3 included. Okay. Well, it seems to be... and those ones are for Arduino Nanos with the Bluetooth. And that's not a Mega AVR, so it should be one of those, but let's... Oh, maybe this is the old bootloader.
Captain Asparagus says, oh, I have an Uno Mini and had to set it to a Leonardo.
Ah, okay.
Oh, do you maybe need to actually like update your Java thing?
I don't think so. Oh, wait, I might need to change my programmer. Alrighty. Let's see if my shop tells me anything about that. 328p CH340. No, don't offer me things. Okay, so some Nano V3 machines require selecting old bootloader in the board manager settings. That's good. It is a 328, so that's good. Let's check it out. Okay, column 3 is correct. Let's get the board info. What does it see? Native serial port can't obtain info. Upload using programmer. Well, come on now. There's now COM4.
Which are the lights that are flashing on it? Or which are the lights that are on?
POM and L. I wonder if that's supposed to be POW.
Because there should be there should also be like the RX and TX lights.
Yeah, and those aren't going at all. I'm going to actually check my device manager. This might not even be recognized.
Yeah, I guess does the computer even acknowledge that it exists?
Yeah. All right, what do we got here? Where are you, COM ports? There you are. Okay, so I was on the wrong COM port to begin with. Got to be on COM4. That's where USB serial CH340 is. Tools. You know what? Let's close down the Arduino programmer module and let's reboot that up. Thrill as we continue to troubleshoot on the fly. Okay, so Arduino Nano. Let's go to regular board. Let's not use the one. Let's restart it. And then let us upload. Hope that works. That looks like it worked. There we go. Solid settings. Everything's saying done uploading. That's all it was.
Cool. Just going to the wrong port.
Yeah, that was it. Okay, now I can unplug that. And unplug that too, because now is going to be the point at which we are going to test some stuff out here to see if we've actually got things working as intended. This will be fun. So we're going to plug that back in here. Wait, right, blue to blue. That's the key. Green is not used. And what's one of the buttons we were going to set up here today? I should have a jumper cable that I can use as a test bed for that. Here we go.
Oh, you can just you can just send that signal to the line just to see if it's working.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to plug the Thrustmaster into this little laptop here. I think I've got my drivers installed. And then we can tell.
Would this be a good time for another break?
You know what? I think if we're okay just moving on here, let's
let's keep going.
Let's test this out, and then we'll see if we're might be a good time for us to shut her down for the day. Because I can see this being a I can see this taking a lot longer than the time we have left allotted to us. But for the moment, courage. Courage. Oh, right, it probably needs USB power too.
Wait. Courage. Keep her courage going.
Courage?
Whoop.
There
Hey.
Okay.
Like he had spin with the thing coming out the middle looks very silly.
So that's the self-calibration. That's getting itself back into position and knowing where the extents of its range is.
Probably super confused that there's a lot less weight on it than it's supposed to be.
Thankfully, that part of the software comes in later. Right. So we're going to go into our window game controller. Yes. Okay. And we're still just grabbing the information. Drivers, that's the word. What button do we want to emulate this time? Let's emulate A, because A is a very good one to do. So we're going to go to ground.
So it's D2.
And yes, that's D2. So we got to find the second ground on here and connect to that. Oh, and thankfully D2 is right next to that one, so that's an easy one to remember. Let's now bring up the controller. It's not seeing the Thrustmaster just yet. Well, fun fact, it is powering the Arduino, so that's good to know. Actually, I'm going to do a quick voltage check on that to make sure that it's getting what it needs. The voltage is 20, and let's just check 5.5 to ground.
And the wheel is plugged into the computer?
Yes, and to the wall.
Is it the the wire that I'm seeing plugged into the computer looks like it's plugged into the pedals.
That's because what we're seeing here is there's a USB hub on the,
I
the
see.
base.
Right.
Ah, there we go. It's like, why does... I was wondering why I was seeing... Okay. And we're getting voltage. Perfect. 3.3, which is what we were supposed to get. Alrighty. Now, as I was saying, controller. It sees the shift pedals, it sees the sim pedals, does not see this yet. So let's unplug it and replug it in. Actually, let's unplug everything but the wheel.
I see the mode light on the front of the wheel on. Oh, and it just turned off.
Yep. And now I plug that back in.
So
That is fun.
the light started flashing green and now turned red. Oh, that light is on, which wasn't on before.
Okay.
That secondary
I
light.
think I just might not have the drivers installed. So let's very quickly go over to thrustmaster.com. We're having...
Make sure you spell.
Yes.
Make sure you spell that one correctly. Do not Thrustmaster dot, something else might not be good.
I wonder how often it comes up when new employees work there. To bring up, like, hey, have we considered changing the name of this company? Oh, that's right. They've got their new servo-based wheels coming. Oh wow, those are incredibly affordable. Where do I actually get the drivers? TMX. There we go. Is this weird to anyone else? That they offer the TMX force feedback and the TMX force feedback copy?
Wait. Is the copy the same price as the regular one?
It's exactly the same price. I feel like this might be someone who didn't clear out their test entries in the production database. Whoops. Also makes me wonder what edits have been done there. Okay. The power of... My dude, these are not silent wheels. Downloads. There we go. This is where we want it to be. And we want drivers. There we go. It may not surprise you that I don't do a lot of sim driving on this laptop.
Mm.
Okay, do you want to cancel the setup? No. It also amazes me that in this 2022, the year of your Lord, Thrustmaster still requires a restart upon... Oh, maybe not. No, I will restart my computer later.
I'll restart my computer when I say.
When I'm good and done with it. Okay, so here we go.
By which I mean when next Windows forces me to restart because of an update. Okay, can see it now?
You've got access to the screen, Matt, there? Okay, so I was going with button A, which is button 5. So we're going to go over here into our driver section. And we're going to look at this one here, button 5. And if that lights up, when I connect this thing, it's working properly. Oh! Hey, we've done it. Perfect. Okay. I feel really good about that. So that means that we have a lot of buttons to rewire and put on this wheel to connect up this Arduino.
So this is now, we're into like, I hear you like buttons.
Yeah.
How many buttons do you want?
I hear you enjoyed measuring out specific lengths of wire and crimping things or soldering it. Well, if you do like that things, you'll have to tune into another episode of Tinker Tailor Solder Fry, because I'm going to say that we are absolutely not going to be able to make any real headway on that tonight. But I feel like this is a good, solid stopping point, and we've actually made it in such a way that we can just disconnect that and come back to it later and still use it as is. But for the moment, I want to say thank you to everyone who has watched us today. Whether you're chatting in the stream, whether you're chatting on YouTube, we do see you. Whether you're not making any sound, lurking in the dark recesses of this particular channel, twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun, by the way, if you are on YouTube. But we want to thank those of you who are generous donators and bidders. But first, Paul, can you tell us what is showing up on this channel over the next little while?
Well, coming up tomorrow, myself and Beej and Heather, we're going to be talking about the video game news on Chill Point. And then on Friday evening, we're going to be doing Friday Night Paper Fight. We're going to be doing another Double Masters 2022 draft. Be kind of like a mini version of the PPR. We're just going to be 6 of us, and it won't take 10 hours, hopefully. But it should be super fun.
Big value, though. That's going to be fun.
And then James has not changed the thing on the schedule because it's no longer popping. It's VR music.
Correct. Right? Virtual reality Space Channel 5. Will we find Space Michael? No, I think he's been removed, but it'll still be a good time.
And then Shadowverse on Is This Your Card with Ben Wheeler. Followed by Can't Draw Horses Club, where Corey is going to be doing something with horses.
Art!
Yes. Might be drawing horses, might not be drawing horses. Can never tell. And then on Crossing the Streams, Monday night, Serge and James and Ben Omer are going to be going back to their Songs of Conquest game. This is like a new, or like a spiritual Might and Magic kind of successor that they're really enjoying, and so they're going to be going back to that game and play some more of that.
Fingers crossed the asymmetrical turn update will happen before they get to that.
Yeah, apparently that's something that is in the works.
I recall the word being used was imminent.
Now, let's thank the awesome people who subscribed during the stream. Wait, I just have to find... There we go. Sorry, we went back... The LRMTG folks went offline, and then we immediately went back online on Tinker Tailor, so... it didn't give a time for Twitch to be like, wait, you're offline.
What?
Now you're online again. But here we go. Starting with
Dan, 9,299 for 95 months. Thank you so much. Thanks also to Mathalupus for 103 months. Ghost of Jeff Goldblum for 11 months. Meowzuji for 63 months. Travi Bear, 13 months. Thank you. Shig Online for 10 months. Daniel Naruta for 103 months, Nasia 31 for 52 months, Jibcat for 11 months, and Dragonite Streams has been gifted a sub by Captain Asparagus. Do not smell the... Wait, no. And, of course, we want to thank as well for those 550 bits from Real Miss Gossip and not Kane nor Abel for those bits. So, One last time, thank you everyone for watching tonight. You can check out those VODs over at youtube.com/loadingreadylive for all the streamium content, youtube.com/loadingreadyrun for all the premium content, and of course all of our magic content is helpfully sequestered away at LRRMTG on the YouTube sites. Once again, I'd like to thank Matt for the help on the camera and for the hands, and Paul for keeping us online and looking at the interesting things. And we're going to see you all again in a fortnight, never in Fortnite. As we say every time, ever forward, learning out of spite. Good night.